Guess we'll start. We're legally required to show this, as per usual.
What does that mean?
So, fuck you. No,
It's like a moment to really dissect.
yeah, I'm just gonna leave it up for a second and then move on. That's a good call. We don't want to show this. All right, Zayed. So you can vote. Or not vote. I don't know. Up to you. Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Did you register to vote? Say your birthday too. How do you really delay it? Hey, better late than never.
Exactly.
Cooper he's being so proactive, it's for next year. It's for next year.
Let's see.
You said this today?
Me?
No.
As we all know, this is the thing.
Your timing was good.
Do stuff, don't do stuff with it. Splitting tree. Do what you want to do. All right, so announcements. We won't have a meeting next week. Shocker. Given that it's, Thanksgiving. I guess that's where the popping was. That's whatever. There's nothing I can do about that, but it's fine. Anyway, no meeting next week. This is also our last live stream meeting on YouTube for the year. You'll see it next semester in the spring, but for elections, we won't be live streaming on YouTube. You can't join us on Discord, assuming you're a verified member. It's going to be locked behind a wall because, I don't want random people voting. So those elections are going to happen at the end of the month. I will also send out an announcement probably next week because I need a slide from each of the candidates with like bullets. It's whatever. Just get it done at some point. All right. So CTF. Anything I'm missing on the CTF stuff, Chad? Cool. So the next CTF we have scheduled is February 3rd, 4th. We are running that CTF. This is our first independent 24-hour-long CTF. If you are interested in helping organize that, please let me know. We can always use more bodies. There's a lot to do. All right. Moving on. Queen City Cons this weekend. It is relatively cheap, $50 for student registration for all the days. Also, you can volunteer is technically free. I don't know if you can volunteer still, but that is a thing. Yes, any questions before I move on? Any questions? Yes, no. All right, so there's no news this week. Matt's not here, and I didn't want to do it, so there's no news. If anybody has news they want to share, go to us. That's what I thought. Okay. No, but seriously, if anybody has cyber news they want to share, if you want to, Cooper, I will wait for you to hold it up if you want. Now, who doesn't want to, Cooper? Okay. I see how it is. But while Cooper's pulling that up, last week we talked about part one of the election stuff, and then we talked about ATC and kind of the results of that. Yes, what do you got?
Tyson was hit by
Who?
Tyson.
Oh yeah, that's right.
That one? Australia's cybersecurity coordinator goes on.
No, that's not sketchy.
Huber Heights, Ohio.
That is true. I remember seeing that. Yeah, so if anybody lives around Dayton, city of Huber Heights got hit with a ransomware attack. I think what, last week? Sounds right. What was it, Kevin? I have some.
U.S. takes down high-school water.
Oh, that's cool. Hold on. Yeah, so, yeah, their human rights is in a bad spot. Basically, they had to turn off, they had to turn off like payment for bills. I think most city services are down for the week, so that's fun. Yeah, that's all I have. So I guess we'll move into content.
Yeah, so we're going to be doing a bit of an introduction to cryptography, especially related to CTFs. So, yeah. So cryptography, not like crypto, is not cryptocurrencies. Just let you know, if you're looking for CTF challenges related to cryptocurrencies, you actually want to look for blockchain challenges. So cryptography has a lot of goals. Foremost tends to be confidentiality, of keeping things secret, especially with data at rest. Make sure that someone who's not allowed to see something can't actually see it. Integrity is another one, which pretty much boils down to just make sure when you send information to someone, that information doesn't get changed before it gets to someone. And more broadly, that just information doesn't change when it's not supposed to. And then non-repudiation. What? I didn't Firefox crash. Okay. One sec. Firefox just crashed on me, so. So, non-repudiation is just making sure the actual sender of the information is who you are intending to be the sender. You might have seen this most often when it comes to if you're downloading software from the internet and you get something like Java and you're trying to install it, and Windows pops up with a little notification going like, hey, this company, Oracle, is trying to change your computer. Are you okay with that? That's actually using fingerprinting to ensure that what you're downloading is actually comes from Oracle. So, couple terms. So, a cipher is any algorithm that can perform encryption or decryption. So, this be AES, ROT13, RSA, anything you've heard of that does encryption is a cipher. A plain text is the unencrypted text of a message. So before you actually encrypt something, you put in the plain text. And when you encrypt it, it makes the ciphertext, which is the encrypted version of plain text. The key is information which is used by the cipher to actually encrypt everything and to tell any cipher how to actually encrypt everything. So this key can sometimes be a string, it can sometimes be a bunch of bytes, it can be even sometimes the state of some cipher before you start encrypting stuff. So yeah, and then encoding is simply a way of interpreting data. So you may know of ASCII, that's a way of interpreting data into text. There's also integers, which are a simple way of interpreting bytes into decimal numbers or regular numbers. And you've got floats, which is another data type that works with numbers with decimal points. So you've got a lot of different encodings. You've got UTF, which deals with a lot of different languages as well, and stuff like that. So when it comes to the different methods of cryptography, you've broadly speaking got what are called symmetric ciphers, where the key is the same key used for the sender and receiver of the ciphertext. So the key will be used to encrypt and decrypt. In this example, we've got Alice with some data. She uses her key to get ciphertext, sends that to Bob. Bob somehow gets the key from Alice in some secure way, maybe, dropping it in a suitcase somewhere, and Bob picks it up, whatever it is, and uses Alice's key to then decrypt the ciphertext. And now Bob has the plain text that Alice had sent, and anyone in the middle without key should not be able to actually figure out what that message is. Some examples are AES, the Enigma machine, and Rock 13, weirdly enough. The other side of that you have is asymmetric ciphers. So this is where you've got two separate keys. And generally speaking, one is a secret key, or it's private, and you don't want to send that out to everyone because that will have information that allows you to get both keys. And another key will be public and can kind of just be dropped anywhere and everywhere. And any message encrypted by the public key can't actually be decrypted, or can only be decrypted by the private key. And any message encrypted by private key can only be encrypted by the public key. So pretty simple there. Any questions? Cool. Yes.
So wait, can you create a public key from a private key?
I think about it, not necessarily, but it may be easier. It kind of depends. Because basically, some secret keys might also be made from secret information that if you don't have, I think you're not necessarily able to reverse engineer to then get your public key. But now that I think about it, normally there are. It probably depends. Probably. I haven't thought about that too much.
So I assume you can't create a private key from public.
You shouldn't be able to. If you can, that's really bad because public key is everywhere with everyone. So, yeah. I think with RSA, now that I think about it, I think you can technically make it. I just don't remember the method. So, yeah. Don't share the secret key is basically the entire story. So when it comes to CTFs, you kind of just have easier challenges and basically other challenges because it's hard to really put an exact here's what makes challenges more difficult. But with easier cipher or with easier challenges, you're normally dealing with older ciphers, like ROT 13, for example. You might be dealing with Legionnaire cipher. Other times and even there, sometimes you get harder challenges, like if you were at MakeQC and my Enigma machine challenge was very difficult. So then you can have encoding methods. Typically, when it's easier, you're just going to have one method of encoding. If you want to make it a little bit harder and a little more fun for people, you can put a bunch of encoding methods all on top of each other and make them guess at which one you're using. So those are always fun too. Most other challenges boil down to either using a custom cipher, in which case the entire process is just taking that and going backwards from the ciphertext using whatever custom cipher. Some examples I've seen of those, one of them is something called a ROT, or a challenge that was called ROT-I, where it was basically like ROT 13, except every time it went through the plain text, it iterated to the next rotation. So for the first letter, it was ROT 13, the second letter is ROT 14, and so on. And you also will have some harder challenges that are just be wild. And yeah. You can then have Then we'll have other challenges that deal with weaknesses of well-known ciphers. So AES and RSA have a couple of ways that they can be really weak. If you remember, there's a weird way that with RSA, if you use the wrong numbers, you actually get something that factors into just the secret numbers from the public key. And whatever way it does so, I remember, is really fast, weirdly. So, yeah. The thing to learn from that is to never implement your own crypto algorithm. And then you've got some other esoteric stuff, which are going to be mostly unknown and weird stuff. The PayPen cipher is one that I had from experience that was very funny. This was actually on a Minecraft challenge, weirdly enough, because they made a Turing complete x86 computer on there and went, hey, here's the PayPen cipher. And it was just pigs spawned inside of fences. So, yeah.
I've seen one where basically they had encoded the entire flag using literally the amount of white space on the line. You had to go to like the ASCII table, and however many white spaces were there was the character.
That's pretty interesting. Any other funny ones people have seen? Or interesting ones?
And to make matters worse, there was text in that file as well.
That's always great. So, the problem with cryptography challenges that I've tended to see is that quite a number of them tend to rely on you actually already knowing stuff about cryptography, especially some of the weaknesses, because you might need to already have good information about RSA or AES to actually exploit those weaknesses and to know what is wrong. And it can be very hard to find that information online. And a lot of cryptography kind of just deals with abstract mathematics, which is a kind of fun field if you're interested in cryptography. If you're not, I don't know how interested you'd be, so take that as you will. And when I'm actually looking, I'm looking to try to answer a lot of questions about figuring out what is the relationship between the ciphertext and plaintext. So you might look at if you can use that you know a part of the plaintext. Oftentimes with those flags you're getting, you're going to have some bit at the front, like flag or make UC or rev UC or effort or whatever not. And you'll have that bit that you can then use and might be able to figure some information out, or even use that to brute force a key. You're going to want to look at whether the ciphertext looks really random. Sometimes you might find a ciphertext that has repeating bits or has a lot of repeating characters, in which case you might be able to use statistics or other things to figure out what the plaintext probably is from that. Brute forcing the key is also a great option for some of the easier challenges because more often than not they use a very small key and the key you can brute force. And then you also want to look into what the key actually comes from. Sometimes keys can be made from passwords or other things like that, in which case, guess the password, don't guess the key that goes into the cipher. And you also want to look at the cipher to figure out if there's any problems with it. Oftentimes, when I'm looking on the internet, I'll actually make the search of whatever cipher I'm looking at, and it's CTF. I've got great success from one challenge a few weeks ago that looking up AES CPC CTFs, which showed me a challenge that was pretty much exactly what the current challenge was, but just a slightly different, which then allowed me to answer that because I could then just modify some of their code and figure out what the flag was supposed to be. So, some tools, general tools that are online. Most of you already know about CyberChef. It's a very fun tool I love, and it has a pretty easy GUI to use. It's kind of the Swiss Army knife of those tools because you can also put together a lot of those different encryption, encoding, bitwise operations, or other things like that. You can put them all together, which can help you a lot if you're just trying to figure something out. Decode is also one that is very useful that I actually never really started using until recently, and that's a mistake. You should use it a lot. It has a cipher identifier, which can sometimes help you on actually figuring out what something is without needing to do it yourself, which is much easier. And then it has a lot of brute force stuff for each of those different ciphers. So sometimes you might just find the answer from there. So yeah, use both of those. But when it comes to Python, which is what a lot of the custom ciphers or what your encryption algorithms are going to use, you're going to normally be working with either encoding libraries like Base64, Codex, and BinASCII. BinASCII specifically, I've seen a lot of confusion about that at MakeUC. The hexlify and dehexlify functions converts bytes into hexadecimal and back, which I've generally seen pretty often used on CTFs. So knowing those two functions can help you a lot when it comes to just getting some giant bit of hexadecimal and trying to figure out what that actually is. Sometimes it may just be the flag that's just sitting there. Python libraries, you'll want to use PyCryptoDome. Don't use PyCrypto, it's old and out of date. And if you look at a Python file and you see import crypto, that's the library that's using. NumPy, SciPy, Matplotlib are kind of, you're getting into really weird mathematics, which I don't think a lot of you are going to be getting into probably, but they're also just useful to know if you do see them. So, yeah. So, the first example I'm going to show is kind of just the very classic Caesar cipher with ROT13. So, it's a substitution cipher, which means that it replaces letters with other letters. And that would be based on some algorithm. In this case, it's also referred to as a monoalphabetic substitution cipher, which means that there's only one alphabet that it's being replaced with, rather than a polyalphabetic cipher, which is using many alphabets to convert letters into other letters. It was used by Caesar using ROT3, as I could see, and it was useful back then because not many people could read. Nowadays, people can read, and it's a little bit less useful, and most people will know what it is pretty quickly. Down below, I show that you can convert "hello, it is cold today" into a bit of a weirder string. And it was also, funnily enough, used by Netscape Communicator in 1999 to store passwords. So, yeah, if you were alive in 1999, you should probably change your password. So I wanted to try a bit of an example if people want to try and figure out stuff. And there'll be a couple more examples, so if you don't have your computer out, you should probably get your computer out if you want to go along with it. So in this case, it's more trying to go through the process of what you're looking at when it comes to a lot of these simpler challenges. So if you're looking on the computer, you're probably going to figure it out pretty quickly, but when you're just looking at it, what you're trying to look at is what the plain text probably is, as well as some other information that might be out of it. So first, let's just start out with what the plain text probably is, if anyone has a guess. Well, that may be the algorithm used, but what might the plain text be? Is it a message, flag, is it, okay, yeah. So it's a message with spaces, so that's kind of helpful. The other thing you might look for is the fact that there's a lot of repeating characters, and in fact, there's entirely repeating words, which is a fun thing to see. So you know the plain text repeats, and we can also see from the fact there's lots of repeating letters, say like E, but E is typically the most repeated letter in the English language. So oftentimes if you take the you basically use something called frequency analysis to try to figure out what things are there. So the text appears to use some rot. You can actually try it with rot 13 and it won't really work. But I wanted to show you guys how to actually use decode. So if you do go to decode, you can go over to the side and see, let's make it a little bigger so people can actually see it. You'll see over on the side that they have the cipher identifier. And from there, you kind of just put ciphertext into it and ask it to analyze it. And in this case, it will show, and it basically uses a couple of different methods to try to figure out what it actually is. In this case, you can see it's rot cipher, or guesses that it's rot cipher. So if we put our ciphertext in this case with rot ciphers, they're fairly easy to brute force. So you can just hit decrypt up here, and it'll tell you that the message was keep it secret, keep it safe. So yeah, and it was actually using a fun thing. It was using rot 16. If you could have figured it out. So now the fun thing is that you can't actually directly use rot 16 because rot 16, you have to use rot 10 to decrypt rot 16. So yeah. So now, using a similar method, how about you guys try to figure out what this ciphertext is? If anyone figures it out, try to either say what the message is or you can raise your hand. I also want to mention with this, I believe with this one, the answer might not be the top of the cipher identifier. Yeah, that's a new behavior. It really does, doesn't it? Huh. Anyone figure it out? Oh. You know, this one doesn't actually show it at the top, so. If you see everything all in French at the top right, you should see an English flag. And if you click on that, it'll convert it to English.
You go back.
You can see the text right up here.
Oh, about what is the keyword?
Huh?
I see the keyword.
What keyword?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has something to do with warrants.
No, it is not the Enigma machine. Someone got it? Who got it?
I think so.
Yeah.
Let me say it, or continue the pain.
What do you think it is?
They're taking the hobbits to Isengard.
Yes, it is. So, great job. So, this one is actually a polyalphabetic substitution cipher known as the Vigenère cipher. Now, if you tried it with Decode, you would actually find that when Decode analyzes it, it is going to give you a lot of other things, but you can go through them and you'll pretty quickly find out those probably aren't it. But if you go down this Vigenère cipher and you actually put it in, it also has an automatic decryption. Not sure how you did it, Mark. Did you do it with Decode?
Yep.
Awesome.
I put in the keywords, but it didn't change anything.
It's the knowing a plain text word on the fourth button.
Yeah, you could do that. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention that first word is there. I meant to mention that, sorry. So, yeah. We also have some fun answers from this, because, like, they're throwing the Hospits to Icy card. So, those are kind of fun things. So, the Vigenère cipher is kind of fun. It's basically a Caesar cipher that you apply with a key many different times. So, that's always a good time. And ironically enough, from some searching, it actually technically becomes a one-time pad if you have a key that's as long as the plaintext. So it's kind of funny in that way, but it was used back in the Civil War by the Confederacy, but they use the same keys most of the time. Manchester Bluff, Complete Victory, and Counter Retribution. So if you do those, you kind of could just take whatever message they sent and figure it out.
So they're very smart in that way. Lots of smart people using cryptography is, totally a long-standing tradition of people using cryptography. Anyway, I got some more challenges for you if you're interested. These ones, not going to be mean, and I'm going to go ahead and post them on Discord so that you can just copy. You can just actually, you don't have to type them all out. So they're on Discord, so you can try to figure stuff out. The resources that we've been using will probably help you a bit.
And you feel like,
I mean, the things will really help. That's fine. Outside of the first one.
and the second.
Yeah, the second one is weirdly related to wheels. The third one is, well, trains.
Add Windows 11. You can actually try their enterprise edition. I found it free. Option like what is it? Nice. I just gave it yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Windows does tend to do why wouldn't it? I don't know. That. I only gave it for 2 days. I'm using, I have 20 gigs. Nice. So, has anyone finished all of them? Awesome. So, who wants to put out the first one? It's the first ciphertext.
Are you sure you are going to be able to find me?
Yep. Second one? Someone else has the second one? Everyone else has the second one. Yeah.
Now labeled whack.
Yeah. The third one is kind of fun, I think. Yeah. So, yeah, these are the answers. Second one, unfortunately, doesn't have any spaces, so I'm sure you had fun with that. And then, so the first one was just Route 47 and then 56. So that meant that it was going over all of the ASCII printable characters. Second one was disk cipher. So that one's kind of fun. And the third one is something called the rail fence cipher, which is zigzag cipher, and uses dots and spaces. Yes. A disk cipher is quite literally having a outer disk and an inner disk, each with the alphabet on it, and just rotating it. And the way you keep it secret is by rotating it a certain amount every character. I think in this case it was 7. I think. Because yeah, I think it is similar to Rod. Or this, you decrypted the second one with Rod 13?
It was not
Not 13.
It was like 20. I don't know.
Also doesn't show up in here, so that's not. But so if you go to the cipher wheel and it should also figure it out. That's interesting that it's Ron. Huh. Guess that makes sense, but you know, it's made by shipping it for 7 or 5, depending on which way you do it. Interesting. And then the third one is using the rail fence cipher, which just goes which, as it describes, zigzags around. So if you put it in this one, I think it comes up pretty close to the top. And if you put it in,
If they do keep function.
yes. Yeah. In this case, it also gets it. So, yeah. So, that is all of this presentation. We may sometimes next semester get a little bit more in depth with cryptography, but right now, getting pretty close to the end. So, yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed.